What's going on, guys, and welcome to Highly and Alph Gaming. I'm your host, Alph, and you all seem to like it when I talk about Splatoon, so here we go again. Today I'm covering a topic that I've wanted to for a while, and that's how people talk about Splatoon 2. You've already seen the title of this video, however, so I'm not gonna beat around the bush any longer. Lots of people call Splatoon 2 a port of Splatoon 1, and I'm here to tell you that that is baloney. People say that Splatoon 2 is just an enhanced version of Splatoon, but in my opinion that couldn't be further from the truth, and I always get annoyed when people say that. One thing before we get started, I can't for the life of me get my Wii U to connect to the internet, so I'll show some footage of menus and stuff from Splatoon, but I am unfortunately unable to show any actual online matches. Thank you for understanding. But let's not dilly-dally, let's get really splatty. Okay, that didn't make any sense. Shwam! Before I get into deciding whether or not Splatoon 2 is a port, I first need to define the difference between a port and a sequel, and the first and most obvious difference is the game's name. Whoa, don't leave the video yet. This is easily the weakest piece of evidence I have, but I still think it should be taken into account. If a game is called Deluxe or HD or something like that, then of course it's a port, but if the game is explicitly named as a successor to something rather than a different version, you can almost be sure it's a sequel, not a port. Okay, but maybe Nintendo named the game wrong. Where do we go from there? Of course we need to go to content, and for starters let's take a look at the maps and weapons. Some maps and weapons from Splatoon 1 were indeed carried over into Splatoon 2, but several, and by several I mean the vast majority, of stages and weapons were almost entirely new to Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2's maps have a bunch of cool features that just weren't present in those belonging to Splatoon on the Wii U, and multiple weapon classes were created solely for Splatoon 2, like Brellas or Dualies. Alright Alph, I hear ya, the weapons and stages you play with are different, but what else? That doesn't make Splatoon 2 a sequel, just an enhanced port. And if that was the only difference, then you'd be right, but it's not. The biggest difference I can think of between Splatoon and Splatoon 2 comes in a much more important part of the game, its modes. Splatoon 2 has two modes that weren't present at all in Splatoon, Clam, Blitz, and Salmon Run. If you've seen my Clam Blitz video already, you know how I feel about Clam Blitz, but you could argue that it shouldn't be counted towards my arguments since it was added after the game's release, so I won't use it. I will use Salmon Run though, because not only is this a totally new mode to play in with people, it's a whole new type of mode. It's a purely co-op mode, no PvP to speak of, and there was basically none of that in the first Splatoon. Salmon Run is and was the first time people could play Splatoon together without fighting each other, and it is awesome. Outside of new modes, some of the existing modes were changed as well. Tower Control and Rainmaker had slight adjustments to their mechanics, and the weapon testing arena has a much more practical layout. We've now come to what may be the biggest reason I think calling Splatoon 2 a port is ridiculous, and the easiest way to explain it is through the game's single-player campaigns. First off, they have different names and completely 100% unique levels, which is a red flag right there, and Splatoon 2's single-player mode uses a variety of weapons in the vanilla game rather than just the hero shot. Those are all very separate sounding features to me, but to finalize why I think Splatoon 2 isn't a port, we need to actually do what I said I was going to do at the start of the video and define a port. A port is a new or enhanced version of the original game on a different platform. Technically, it doesn't have to be enhanced or different to be a port, but Splatoon 2 is definitely not the exact same game. But that's just not what Splatoon 2 is. A port is the same game, maybe with a little extra stuff added on, but Splatoon 2 does not fall under that definition of a port. Splatoon 2 didn't add to Splatoon, it changed the Splatoon formula for the better. Splatoon and Splatoon 2 have single-player modes that are kind of similar in concept, but that have entirely different levels. If Splatoon 2 was a port of Splatoon, they wouldn't have taken out the entire single-player mode from Splatoon and then replaced it with a newer, better one. They would have kept what they had and gone from there. This concept applies to nearly all areas of Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2 does have a bigger selection of maps and weapons than Splatoon, but it also has a different selection of maps and weapons. Splatoon 2 has more modes than Splatoon, but many of the old modes are different. They didn't just add to Splatoon with Splatoon 2, they changed it. They changed basically everything about it except the core concept. And with a multiplayer game, what more could you possibly want them to change? If they wanted Splatoon 2 to be any bigger, better, and more sequel-y than it already is, they would have pretty much had to change the entire core concept of Splatoon in the process, and I don't want that. I love Splatoon just the way it is. Okay, before we close out this video, let me say one more thing. To me, calling Splatoon 2 a port of Splatoon is like calling Mario Kart 8 a port of Mario Kart 7, maybe even more ridiculous than that. Don't believe me? Let me explain. Splatoon 2 and Mario Kart 8 are both new installments in their franchises on newer hardware and with better graphics than their predecessors, more stages and character options than their predecessors, and very similar but slightly tweaked gameplay to the games that came before them. Splatoon 2 may be even more sequel-y than Mario Kart 8 because it added multiple new modes, but that might be stretching it a bit. Bottom line is, I think calling Splatoon 2 a port of Splatoon, or basically the same game as Splatoon, is ridiculous, and I would really appreciate it if people stopped referring to it as such. But what do I know? I'm just some stupid nerd making videos about Nintendo on the internet. Tune in next time to hear me say why Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze isn't a port entirely because of its funky mode. Wahoo! Whoa, get that song out of here. I mean, thanks for watching, everyone. Did you or do you still think Splatoon 2 is a port of Splatoon? If you still do, feel free to comment about it below. I'm very interested to hear other people's ideas on the matter. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day.